What image do you have of Minamoto no Yoshitsune? He was a specialist in battle. His battle tactics were genius, and his swordsmanship was excellent. However, he failed to gain the trust of his elder brother Yoritomo, and regrettably ended up as a warrior. Isn't that the image you have of him? However, it is said that Yoshitsune's failure to gain his brother's trust was due to his overly freewheeling character. In this video, Yoshitsune, who was disliked by his elder brother for being too free, is explained. We will explain his upbringing, his strength and great deeds, and the reasons why his brother hated him, so please read on until the end. Let's get to the main story. First, let us take a closer look at Yoshitsune's background. Yoshitsune's name is so strongly etched in Japanese history that the word Hogenbiki, sympathy for Yoshitsune, sympathy for the underdog in general, and the episode of his victory in battle against Benkei have been passed down to the present day. What was his childhood like? This was the period when his character, which caused his elder brother to dislike him, was formed, and may give us a picture of his personality. Yoshitsune was born in 1159 as the ninth son of his father Minamoto no Yoshitomo and his wife Tokiwa Gozen. His childhood name was Ushiwakamaru. It seemed that a glorious life awaited him, but in the year of Yoshitsune's birth, the Heiji Rebellion broke out. The Minamoto clan led by Minamoto no Yoshitomo was defeated, and the Taira clan took over political power. Of course, Yoshitsune and Tokiwa Gozen were captured together. However, they were not killed. Why on earth? Actually, Tokiwa Gozen was a woman of low status, but she was chosen as one of the most beautiful women of all time out of 1,000 women in Kyoto, and her beauty was recognized by Taira no Kiyomori, who released her. Of course, there were conditions. Instead of letting Tokiwa Gozen's sons, Imawaka, Otowaka, and Ushiwakamaru go free, she had to become Taira no Kiyomori's concubine. Another condition was that these three sons were to be ordained in order to prevent them from becoming warlords and taking revenge in the future. Tokiwa Gozen accepted these conditions. Yoshitsune was then entrusted to Kuramadera Temple in Kyoto at the age of 7. Unaware of his own situation, Yoshitsune genuinely studied hard and was even expected to be a learned monk. However, a monk who felt sorry that there would be no descendants of the Minamoto clan made Yoshitsune learn that the Heike were enemies. And it seems that Yoshitsune became resentful towards Kiyomori when he found out about his birth. Yoshitsune understood that Kiyomori had abandoned Tokiwa Gozen when he got tired of her, and that his own childhood had also been a lonely and painful environment. Thus, Yoshitsune began to train himself by night in order to defeat the Heike. Yoshitsune, who had been training so hard with the assumption that he would defeat the Heike clan, reached the age of 16, by which time Yoshitsune's suspicious behavior had become known to the Heike clan. In fact, Yoshitsune had refused to become a monk and left Mount Kurama. And after wandering around the country, he decided to go to Oshu Hiraizumi, where he met Fujiwara no Hidehira. Hidehira was the third head of a powerful family that ruled over the Mutsu region, and he took Yoshitsune under his wing to increase his dominance and brought him up and taught him the martial arts. At that time, Yoshitsune took the name Yoshitsune from one letter each of his father Yoshitomo and the first head of the Minamoto clan, Tsunemoto. At this time, the power of Heike clan was growing tremendously strong and they were on a roll. However, they were angered when the daughter of Kiyomori and the son of Emperor Takakura became crown prince, which meant that Emperor Takakura's brother could not become emperor. As a result, when the Heike ouster was issued and Yoritomo raised his army, Yoshitsune, who wished to join his brother under the curtain, went to his brothers. Thus, the two men reunited for the first time since their childhood and stood together to destroy the Heike clan, Yoshitsune's strength and greatness. So far, no problems have been observed in the conflict with his brother or in Yoshitsune's character. However, it is clear that he harbors strong resentment towards the Heike clan. In this part, I would like to introduce Yoshitsune's strength and greatness, and at the same time look at his free-spirited character. First, Yoshitsune is famous for his episode with Musashibo Benkei. Benkei, furious at being defeated by the Heike, set a target of 1,000 swords and attacked Heike samurai one after another to take them away, collecting 999 of them and meeting Yoshitsune at Gojo Ohashi Bridge with only one sword left. At this time, Benkei mistook Yoshitsune for a Heike samurai, underestimated his slender physique, and challenged him to a duel. However, Yoshitsune, who according to legend had learnt martial arts from a Tengu, defeated Benkei with his beautiful body language and overwhelming swordsmanship. After the duel, Benkei learnt that Yoshitsune was the son of Yoshitomo and, attracted by his strength and noble lineage, asked Yoshitsune to become his retainer. This episode also shows the overwhelming strength of Yoshitsune. Yoshitsune's strength lay not only in his swordsmanship, but his strategy was also prodigious. This talent was demonstrated in the Battle of Ichinotani. In this battle, the Heike forces had set up thick defenses on the precipitous cliffs and put up an ironclad defense that could withstand attacks not only from the front, but also from both sides. Despite their lack of offensive capability, Yoshitsune launched a surprise attack known as the Hyodorigoe no Gyakudoshi. The Heike forces, who were not expecting an attack from the precipice, were confused and succeeded in the surprise attack with only 70 cavalry, winning a great victory at the Battle of Ichinotani. Yoshitsune thus made a name for himself on the battlefield, but a glimpse of his character can be seen in this strategy. He dropped his horse from a precipice to see if he could dismount, but only half of them made it down safely, and some of them fell off their horses with broken legs. In other words, he had his men carry out an extremely dangerous operation that was by no means safe. The Heike forces then fled to Yashima, present-day Kagawa Prefecture, and fortified their positions in preparation for an attack from the sea. Of course, they would have pursued the Heike with all their might, but they needed to move their ships in order to attack. However, the Genji forces did not have the technology to move their ships, so the pursuit was halted. Then Yoshitsune came up with a plan. Yoshitsune had his ships sent out, despite the fact that they did not have the technology to launch them, and despite the fact that they could not launch them due to the storm. Of course, few soldiers would accompany him on such a dangerous mission, and only 5 ships were needed to set sail. Here too we see Yoshitsune's free thinking, but it did not end there. Anticipating that the Heike forces would attack from the sea, he dared to land from a distance and attack from land. However, it was clear that he did not have enough troops, so he went around setting fire to houses to make it look like he was attacking with a large force. As Yoshitsune had intended, the Heike forces, mistakenly believing that they had been ambushed by a large army, abandoned their defenses and fled. As a result, they won the Battle of Yashima. Yoshitsune, who had shown his genius in warfare, had a feud with his elder brother Yoritomo at this time. Why was this? The reason was hidden in this battle. Why his brother hated him. After destroying the Taira clan, Yoshitsune came into conflict with his elder brother Yoritomo and was pursued as an enemy. Why was Yoshitsune disliked by his elder brother? This is said to be related to Yoshitsune's overly freewheeling character. There were 2 reasons why he was disliked. One is that Yoshitsune assumed that Yoritomo's retainers were his own. In order to win the battle against the Heike, Yoritomo had made efforts to gather soldiers and had also formulated a post-victory policy. The troops he gathered were warriors from the eastern provinces who were fed up with the Heike's unreasonableness. Yoritomo established good relations with the warriors in the east and asked them to join his army. Yoritomo was careful not to break this relationship, but he treated the warriors of the eastern provinces roughly, as he considered Yoshitsune to be his own retainer. Not only did he allow them to accompany him on dangerous missions, but he also had the freedom to take all the credit for them. His relationship with the Eastern warriors was lost, and he became increasingly frustrated. The second reason is that they destroyed the Heike. What? Didn't Yoshitsune and Yoritomo both have the same objective of defeating the Heike? You may have thought. But Yoritomo's aim was not to destroy the Heike, but to defeat them. More precisely, he wanted to take Emperor Antoku, who was with the Heike, alive to recover the 3 sacred weapons that had been stolen from him, and to gain an advantage in post-war negotiations. Yoritomo wanted the state to be run by warriors, so capturing Emperor Antoku alive and recovering the 3 sacred weapons was super important. However, Yoshitsune, who did not understand Yoritomo's thinking and only wanted to destroy the Heike, went on a rampage in the Battle of Danura, resulting in the death of Emperor Antoku and the loss of both of the three sacred objects. Yoritomo was outraged by his selfish behavior, but after some time he promoted Yoshitsune to the position of Iyo province and had him appointed to the imperial court. Just in time, Yoritomo also forgave Yoshitsune, but then Yoshitsune took an impossible action. He had received an official position from Emperor Go-Shirakawa without permission. Yoritomo had forbidden the Minamoto clan from holding court posts, but Yoshitsune took it upon himself to accept it, and even though he was only just barely allowed to do so and was appointed Iyo province, he did not resign his post and continued to hold it. This incident caused Yoritomo to lose patience, and he came to dislike Yoshitsune. Thus, it was Minamoto no Yoshitsune who met a sad end. How would this episode have gone? No matter how much of a prodigy he was in warfare, if he did not understand politics, did not listen to his superiors, and behaved selfishly, it was natural that he would be disliked. If they had spent time together from an early age, they might have understood Yoritomo's ideas and built a relationship that would have allowed them to communicate with each other deeply. What would you have thought of these brothers? That's all for this episode. Please subscribe to our channel and give us a high rating if you like. See you again in the next video. Thank you for watching.